Hello and welcome to Most Strongly Supported, All Things LSAT. What you have before you is one of the sample questions that we make for you, the home viewing audience, or in this case, listening audience, for your listening pleasure. This particular question is entitled Farnold's Scandal, though it is important that I remind you that no associations are intended or implied in any way, loosely or strictly, by those of us here at Most Strongly Supported. But on to the question itself. The question prompt says, which of the following, if true, most helps to strengthen Farnold's response to the studio bigwig? Where we are strengthening, of course, you have a strengthened question. And what do we have here? We have a conversation between the studio bigwig and Farnold. There's a studio bigwig there. That's a handsome chap if I've ever seen one. And he says, I'm sorry, Farnold. Listen, we're going to have to terminate, no pun intended, our contract with you to be the star of our upcoming film, Predator Unleashed. His worry, of course, is that the widespread negative press surrounding Farnold's extramarital affair could spell doom for the picture. His polling shows that Farnold is far less likable than Farnold was just a little while ago. And that's bad news. Bad news if you're Farnold. But what's the studio bigwig really concerned about? Because I think I know, and I think I see it right here in front of me. It's not the history of film. It is Benjamin's. And what is he worried about? He's worried that his money is going to go up in smoke, or at least in flames, as I see here, that he will be left with what appear to be two fairly shabby looking dimes. That would suck. And if you're Farnold, this is not good news, because the studio executive is suggesting that you are not going to be in the movie, and his reason is that you are too financially risky. Bad news. Bad news if you're Farnold. And in fact, that's Farnold right there. Or is it me? I think that's what I look like in a tie and jacket. In any case, Farnold says, listen, it's only one love child. In fact, that's him there. A titch green, I take it, but aren't we all allowed one, he says. He says, by the way, I've been extremely successful with box office hits, and I've made a lot of money for your studio. So I'm outraged. Outraged, I tell you. If you let me do Predator Unleashed, it will be a huge box office success. It will absolutely be outstanding. His view then is that he is going to make a blockbuster, that there is no risk, and that this will be a very successful film. What's at issue between these gentlemen? The thing that's at issue, you might think of this as a disagree question. What they disagree about is whether or not there's going to be a great deal of risk involved. The studio bigwig thinks it's risky because Farnold, of course. Farnold is no longer likable. Farnold's opinion is that likability, well, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't know if he is or not, but he thinks that it's going to make a lot of money for some other reason. What are we doing? We're trying to strengthen Farnold's position. And the way, of course, to do that is to find some reason where, despite what the studio bigwig says, this movie is still going to be successful. Maybe that people don't care that he had the affair. Maybe that people don't understand what it is. Or maybe that what people really go out to see in the movies is not moral upstandingness at all, but some other thing. With that anticipated and in mind, we should go to the answer choices. And let's start at the top, because that is what Farnold would do. Answer choice A says that until news leaked of his affair, Farnold had enjoyed a 30-year film career without any major controversy. I agree with that, but the problem is the studio bigwig might as well. The worry is not what he used to be or what he used to do, but rather what he's going to do in the future. Or more importantly, another way of putting this is what this new affair and love child means for him. The fact that he was successful before doesn't bear on the studio bigwig's concern. In fact, he actually says you used to be likable, but you aren't anymore. He could agree with A, the studio bigwig could, and for that reason, it does not speak to his worry, and answer choice A goes out. The way of the dinosaurs. We should move on to B. B says that Farnold was the lead actor in Preschool Police Officer, and this was the highest grossing comedy in film history. I think we all remember that film. I do, and in fact, I'm going to see it tonight. The thing is, I'm going to invite the studio bigwig to come over, and he will. He loved that film. He was a producer on the film. He thought it was the greatest film ever. But again, just like A, this film came before, perhaps, this extramarital affair and the news of it breaking. So the studio bigwig is free to agree that I keep doing that. It's Farnold. I don't know why. It's Farnold, who was very popular then. And the studio bigwig can concede this. The concern now is what happens after the disclosure of this extramarital affair, and that's what the studio bigwig's concerned about. Hence, B, just like A, does not speak to the issue of the affair and goes out. Moving on to C. It doesn't look promising, friends. It says before Farnold's scandal. But again, the studio bigwig's concern doesn't originate till after the scandal. So I'm not liking C, but let's give it a chance. It says before Farnold scandal, telephone surveys confirmed that some moviegoers were extremely excited about Predator Unleashed. I certainly was. I think you were too. So was the studio bigwig and Farnold and Bambi. Everyone might have been. But the thing is, after the scandal, maybe everyone cooled out. Maybe everyone stopped liking Farnold, and that's the studio bigwig's worry. Answer choice C does not speak to this at all, and thus it goes out. But I'm tired, friends, of doing consonants. Let's skip D for no other reason that I want to talk about a vowel, and the only one left is E. E says Farnold's more recent films have not performed nearly as well as his earlier films in terms of box office revenue. Friends, hold on. Stop the presses. That would seem to strengthen someone, but not Farnold's contention. That would seem to strengthen the studio bigwig's contention that this is a big risk, albeit for a different reason than the studio bigwig gives. Wait, you're telling me Farnold's popularity was trailing off even before this news, and now he's even less popular? No way are we going to greenlight this movie. Absolutely not. That sounds like a terrible risk. An awful thing for us to do, wouldn't be prudent. And he strengthens all right, but the other guy, the studio bigwig, and not Farnold, and we want to strengthen Farnold's position. And choice E then is going to go out. I'm at this point rooting for D, not just because it's a consonant, though that's involved, but also because it is the last answer choice. So I'm hoping this works out for us. Please read with me. It says that when deciding which movies and TV shows to watch, the vast majority of people choose the one with the lead actor or actress whose name they best recognize. That actually is great news for Farnold because right now everyone recognizes him. This controversy actually has made him more, not less famous, more famous by a long measure. And the reason why is because everyone's heard about it. It's been in the media. This suggests actually that he might do better at the box office than before because more people know who he is. And the suggestion here is that fame is more important than likability. Even if his likability has gone down, as the studio bigwig suggests, this suggests that people might go to see his movies anyway, not because he's a nice guy or a morally upstanding citizen, but because a lot of people know who this is, know who he is. Who can we imagine that's like this? Anyone come to mind? Well, I see shades of Paris Hilton and someone who looks like Donald Trump with even worse hair, if that's even possible. Neither of those are particularly savory characters, but a lot of people view their television programs anyway, presumably because they are super duper famous. Thus, answer choice D is going to be our friend. We should circle it and move on to the next question with great confidence. That's all from us here at Most Strongly Supported. I hope you enjoyed this and go back to our blog to look at other LSAT tips.